All right, hey man, it's been a big day. We've had several of these episodes come across, quite frankly, and this is going. If you're watching, this is the third week of January. We've already had two episodes that we've test trialed. We've had Brent Orsuga come in. We've had Gabe come in from Rocket Shipping, and that's the freight side. So now we're going to talk a little bit about money and get some questions answered. We got Mando Sallavanti, the third man. He said I nailed his name, but
Sir.
he might be being nice to me. So what's
Yes,
up,
sir.
brother?
Exactly right, man. Mando Sallavanti the third. I'm good. I'm good, bro. I'm good. I appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you came on. Thanks for sharing your time with me. I know time is very valuable and important, but we've talked quite a bit on LinkedIn
Yeah.
and we got a little bit of similar backgrounds with sports and stuff. So wanted to get you on, kind of pick your brain in the finance aspect of it. Your headline is pretty much saying, you help Gen Zs make better financial decisions and help them save some money or even grow some money or whatever. That's not my space, so I figure I'll let you talk to it. Just kind of give everybody a brief view of like what you do and how you got into it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll start with what I do because that's going to be much quicker than how I got into this. But really, what I do, Gunner, is just I sit down with my clients. We have a conversation. I understand what they want to do, like in their life. Like, what's their goals? Are they buying a house, or are they planning stuff for their kids? Whatever that may be, whatever their goals are, and how do we optimize their finances to get to those goals? So a lot of the times it's helping people avoid mistakes that they didn't even know they were making, So put simply, I'm just unpacking their whole financial situation and putting it back together in the best way we can.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha. So you're pretty much a personal trainer for finances
That's
in one way.
essentially what it is. Like my title is that I'm a financial planner, but I'm really more of like I'm more of a life coach with a financial focus. Like I joke, half jokingly say that, but essentially like a financial coach.
Yeah, no, my brother-in-law, like I said, is in the same game, and he's really good at that and kind of helping people and guiding them because a lot of people just don't know, and myself included to a certain extent. So, well, how'd you get into it? I mean, I got into logistics. I just
Yeah.
kind of fell into it. Did you fall into this, or was this a plan?
Wasn't the plan. Wasn't the plan. So my dad's a doctor, right? And he's a family doctor. And growing up, like I saw how people treated him and they loved him. And everybody that he went to, like they just revered him the way they talked to him and like approached him. And as I grew older, I realized it's because, well, hey, my dad helps these people. That's why they treat him so well. So I was like, oh, I could be a doctor. Like it's perfect. I'll go to med school, come out, I'll fall in under my dad. I'll be my mentor. That was my plan forever. Like to the point, even to this day, all my boys call me Doc. Like that's my nickname. My boss here that brought me into this industry, he calls me Doc. Like still. So, anyways. So I go to college playing football, nothing crazy, play small school ball. First school I'm at, East Stroudsburg in PA, Division II school, doing well athletically, horrible academically. Failed two classes, had C's in all my others. And I realized that, I need an environment change. This isn't the right place. I was partying way too much, just doing things I shouldn't have done. And talked to my dad about it, transferred schools, transferred down to a smaller Division III school, King's College in Pennsylvania. Played there 4 years. And then, but back to my first year there, I was doing better in school, but I was still a little bit lost, right? And I realized that it was more so in my everyday, like the curriculum. So being a doctor wasn't what my passion was. Like I said, it was helping people. And talked to my dad about it, and credit to him, he was very, very receptive, like flat out said, dude, that's fine. But he's always been a tough love guy. And he's like, look, you're going to find out what you want to do. I don't care if it's not that. So start setting me up on phone calls. Second call that I make, it's his financial advisor. I was hooked ever since then. This was about going to be 6 years next month. It was January of 2017. I was in college still, talked to him. I was sold on the career, got all my licenses, came off the stage in 2020, been doing it since then, and have a thriving practice almost 3 years later. And it's been great, man.
That's awesome. So how's that work? When you get into it, do you is it like an entrepreneur, like you work for an agency and you run a portion of your business? Is that how it is?
It's basically like an entrepreneur the way I'm doing it, but even it's like weird because I wouldn't quite call it an entrepreneurial role. It's more so entrepreneurial because of this reason. Like, it depends on your company, honestly, in financial services, because some companies are captive, but you are running your own business, but others are non-captive, which mine isn't captive. So I actually own all my clients. So like, not like own my clients, but my point is if I left and opened Mando Sallavanti financial firm, I can have them all and still service them. And there's no like non-compete or anything like that. So I'm building my own business through the company. The benefit is like, I don't have to pay the lights for this office. I don't have to pay rent for an office. As long as I'm producing, bringing in revenue to the company, bringing in clients that are mine, again, I get all that paid for and have the resources of a Fortune 500 company behind me, So it's a good gig. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that'd be like similar to the people, most likely people watching this, they're in the freight game. So like they're probably, if you became an agent and you had a 70-30 split of every dollar margin you brought in, probably very similar. Right. You can grow out your business however you want to. You get to operate underneath another MC, but you don't have to take the risk yourself and have the financial backing to do it.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
I was going to say that's essentially what it is. It's just like my revenue, it's less money off certain things than it would be, Yeah.
Well, that's really cool, man. So you're enjoying it. You're doing well at it. What are some of the struggles you had when you first started? Obviously, nothing is easy when you first start. So is it a lot of cold calls? Is it a lot of, how do you get clients?
Yeah. So there's a million ways you could do it. For me, I started just going to people I know. I mean, Gunnar, as you know, playing football in college, how many people you probably know, just the people you played with right there, that's 400 people,
Yep.
So throughout that, and I have a very good network and presence in my local area because of my father being a family doctor, and I'm the third, so I got the same name as him, and people recognize me just out of my name. But I figure, okay, I know a lot of people. Let me go to them, say, hey, here's what I'm doing. I don't know that you even need my help, but I'd love to just sit down and maybe there's something I can help improve your situation. So it was a lot of that, but I was falling on my face in the beginning, man, like doing horrible. My first 3 months in business, I could tell you the exact dollar amount I made, and it was $360. And at that point, I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong? Like I'm going to be out of this in a month or two. Like I can't afford to make $100 a month. Like what am I doing?
Right.
And it was hard, man. And coming from a football background, I always had that tough guy mentality and like the ego, and that hurt me. And I had to figure out how to throw that aside and become more humble. And I got humbled and I went back to my mentor and I told him, hey, here's my situation. I'm struggling. I don't know what to do, but I'm not doing it right now. So can I have your help? And went from there and went to work and learned a lot of lessons, a lot of going to other successful people and learning how they're doing it. And in so little words, turned it around, and I'm here, Yeah,
it's crazy that when you go and ask people for help, that they're willing to help you. It's crazy how that works, It's like, especially the people that are like successful. It's crazy that those people would want to help other people figure it out a little bit faster. The problem is nobody wants to ask. Nobody's willing to, really humble themselves enough to be like, hey man, I don't know this. And can you help a boy out? Like, that's what I've been doing. That's one of the main reasons why this podcast is a thing right now, is because I'm able to talk to guys like I don't know much about finances, but I can talk to you off camera, on camera, whatever. I'm sure we could talk about it. Like that's in everything, whether it's sales, marketing, logistics, finances, real estate, branding. It's anything. You need to ask questions, anything, and it's important. You got a good presence on LinkedIn. We're right there. I think we're both in that 7,000, 8,000 follower mark, and so that means you're doing something right. And you came out of college after me. Was LinkedIn something they were pushing in college, maybe in that mid 2010s, or is that something you just kind of took and ran with, or is this something new?
Yeah, it's actually funny. They weren't. The platform that they really, really pushed on us in terms of like getting jobs, because I think everyone thought of LinkedIn at first as like, oh, I get my job there, right? Mm-hmm. There's this platform called Handshake. That was the one they were really pushing on us. But I guess it's just like employer to person. I don't know. I never really used it, honestly, but that was the one they pushed. And I got on LinkedIn, and when I started in this career, my company pushed LinkedIn to like be active there, post from the company library, all this stuff. And at first I'm posting like these generic posts to every he or she in the company is posting, you know what I mean? To no success. And then finally I started making my own. And that was still horrible. And I was just cold DMing and asking for meetings to people I never even met, which, as you could imagine, had very little success.
Sure.
I think in 18 months of doing that, I have one client that actually like became a client from that. So I'm like, all right, man, there's got to be another way. And just from asking people for help, doing some coaching calls, I figured out like, hey, man, I'm just going to put stuff out there, help people and not ask. And if my profile shows what I do, maybe they'll come to me. And funny enough, it started happening. So ever since I just focused on giving, I've been growing like crazy.
Yeah, the same thing for me. I was like, why do people not give out free content, like free value, like stuff that you can read and apply?
Yeah.
And stuff that I like tell my sales guys. And all it is stuff that I've read or learned or heard from somebody else. It's not like I'm reinventing the wheel, neither are you. You're just putting out stuff that other people are afraid to put out because they're afraid their competition is going to get their clients or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So I think it's really smart. I say, hey, be unapologetically, authentically you. I say it every day. That's my slogan. And if you do that, they're going to come to you. It's going to make them. It's like you become polarizing because you have an opinion, and it's a public opinion. Now, whether that's good or bad, that can get you. They can get you, but you got to be able to navigate those waters. And I think you do a great job at it. Obviously, you've built a pretty good profile.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's cool to see. Plus, I'm biased towards former athletes too, so I just love the grind, the grit of the former athlete. That's where we really connect, and we can always kind of tell. It's funny how like another athlete or another football player specifically can tell the sarcasm even in text without even putting LOL or J.
Right.
Like you just know, like it's just locker room talk. Almost. It's just so funny that some people don't get it, man. It's cool. But hey, let's talk about like somebody that is looking for some advice, or we've talked about how you got into it and stuff. What are some of the questions that you're most often having to answer? Like, what are some of the objections to people that they don't want to work with a financial advisor? Just kind of talk about your day to day.
Yeah, like my thing, what I would tell you, the objections typically come from is, hey, I don't really know how you would help me. Like, oh, I know how to invest. I don't really know how you would help me with my finances. And it's funny because there's a lot of different ways financial professionals work with people, but a financial planner is much different. So as a planner, like I said, I'm more of like a coach where it's like, what are your goals? Then we'll talk about your finances later, and then we'll tie them together to get to those goals. So a lot of people, their preconceived like notion of what a financial professional is I give you money, you go invest and get me a better return than I would get myself. And that's really not the premise of what I do. The premise of what I do is optimizing everything. So that's the biggest one is like, oh, well, how you're going to get me a better return. And quite frankly, I tell everyone that comes to me, if you're looking for the best return in the stock market, don't come to me, because that is not the value I provide to my clients. My value comes in other ways. So that's one. Another thing is like people, when they might say something about like, oh, I don't want to pay for that, or, the price is too high or your fee's too high. I get that. And the biggest thing there is just like, hey, is this fee higher than you not getting to your goals? Like, what's a bigger cost? And is the plan you currently have going to get you there? Because if it is, then fine, you probably don't need me. If you know everything and you got the perfect plan, then you don't need me. So that's another one. But you mentioned day to day, like pretty much, man, this week's a little different than others. I mean, I have a couple meetings throughout the day because it's the weekend between Christmas and New Year's. I'm not in the office all day, in for a couple hours each day, but like average week, I wake up, I'll work out, head to the office for like 7:30 to 8:15 at latest. And then I'm usually there till lunch, out for lunch, back in the afternoon, have some meetings in the afternoon, finish up around 5 or 6, depending. And I'm home at night. And in the nighttime is usually when I work on my marketing stuff. So that's an average day. Now it just depends if I'm out of the office for meetings and whatnot. But it's cool because my day is pretty much just like Gunnar, how we're having a conversation right now. That's pretty much what it is with my clients. We're obviously just talking about them, right? So that's pretty much like every day. It's just like all these podcasts over and over that are really just conversations with clients,
Yeah, and dude, that's all a sales call is, right? So that's the difference. So in 2020, when nobody was really doing sales calls, or 2019, this became the huge thing, and all these platforms started popping up. Your StreamYards, your whatever the other ones are, the what Restream or OpenStream,
right.
whatever, like everything. Like, and then Zoom became huge, like blew up in the stock market too because everybody was going to it. But this is such an easy way to sell and to connect with people. Now, when people message me, they'll be like, "Hey, man, I got a question for you." I'm like, "All right, cool. Holler at me at 5 a.m. on a web conference. You got my attention, and I'll look you in the eye and tell you what. Like, I'll give you the answer, right? Like, there's no hiding behind text or a phone. Like, I would rather do this all day, every day, no matter what. Even with my guys, like today, I'm out of the office, and I work in office all the time. But this week, I just wanted to try it. I was like, I'm going to step out of the office this week since it's a short week. Let the sales guys do their thing. I'm going to check in with them in the evening. We're have a meeting, just debrief like we normally would do, but on Zoom and see how it goes. It's the same thing. If not, it was even better because there was nobody coming into my office throughout the day, asking me questions, shooting shit, like, just all this stuff. Like they were like, all right, man, cool. This is what I did. What do you want us to do? And I was like, cool, boom, boom, boom. All right, done. Well, that was easy. That really opened my eyes. Like, man, I need to be doing this almost all the time with everything. But it is. I bet you do have a bunch of conversations because this is how you do, right? Like you wouldn't want to do on the phone. You'd want to do in-person meetings, but this is the best way to do it.
Exactly. And it's funny because even people in my local area, they'll pick Zoom over coming in, and they might be 10 minutes from my office. And it's just what they prefer because they're in the comfort of their home. They don't got to get in the car. They don't have to take the drive. They don't have to come in person. You're on, you're done, and that's it.
Yeah, no, it really is awesome. Well, okay, so here's some advice. You said, listen, if you want to put all your money in the stock market, you might not be the guy particularly. But so like, what would be your expertise other than just coaching? Like, do you have a firm grasp on everything? Do you put money into the stock market? Does it go into mutual funds and stuff like that? I guess you can just disperse funds.
Yeah. So I'm managing my clients' money, like we're investing in the market if that's something they want to be doing, and that's something that's a suitable recommendation for them. Whether it's mutual funds, ETFs, which is an exchange traded fund, individual stocks, stuff like that. I'm managing my clients' assets doing that as well. Going back to what I said before, it's more so like, hey, I'm going to try to get you the best return with the fund managers and stuff like that we're using. But the value in my process isn't based on what I'm going to return you in the market. It's in the accountability I'm going to give you. It's in the planning we're going to do for your overall situation, stuff like that. But I'm helping my clients with estate planning documents, if that's something they need, tax strategies. So we could look forward and say like, hey, we're going to invest your money in these places or those places. Let's consult your tax advisor and verify with him. And then this way your tax liability down the road is going to be much less than it would have been based on what you were doing. So like, that's an example. We're doing a lot of insurance review. So like whether it's life, disability, auto, home, whether it's things that I'm licensed to consult clients on, or we need to pull someone else in that's licensed on certain things, we're looking at all their insurances because there's usually opportunity to fix people's situations there, whether they're overpaying or they're underinsured. And budgeting is big. Like I say, cash flow is king. So what that means is everyone has their income and then they got their expenses. Then there's this little gap in between. That's what cash flow is. So that is where you're going to further yourself towards your goals, because that's where we could deploy that cash places to grow it, to save it, to do whatever we need to for your goals. Does that answer your question?
No, yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's great. So, I mean, listen, you're a one-stop shop pretty much in the finance game, and that's fantastic. But you really say that you help the Gen Z. Why is your niche? Why are you marketing towards the Gen Z instead of the other ones, the baby boomers and millennials and that type of stuff?
Yeah. So, full disclosure, all of my clients aren't Gen Z. I do work with people outside of that demographic. Sure. Why do I market there? Quite frankly, I came into finance, saw nobody else did. And I'm like, how could I stand out? And that was what I saw as the opportunity. And I'm Gen Z. I'm 24. I turned 25 in April. So I'm like, hey, I could stand out doing this. And there's more that goes into it, obviously. A lot of them, that are going to work with me are going to be salespeople. I like working with salespeople because they're open-minded. They're high energy for the most part. They're aggressive. I like that. That's how I am. So I felt like I could relate to them a lot because I'm going through the same things, you know, buying your first relatively expensive car, buying your first home, saving for things, understanding budgeting for the first time. Like these are things I could really add a lot of value to people. And that's just on top of the fact I was like, hey, I can stand out here, you know?
Yeah, no, that's great. Do you ever get the pushback from people kind of feeling weird that you're like looking into their finances? Because that's the most personal thing that I guess that's really out there is your money situation. And because so many people try to like fake having more money than they do, or, you know, they don't want people to know what they have in savings or whatever. So like, do you ever have any pushback on that?
Not as much as you would think, because there's something, and I think this goes back to LinkedIn about being around all the time. I think people seeing my face, seeing my thoughts, they become more trustworthy. But also once I'm on a call with someone, it's like, hey, you scheduled this with me for a reason. So something's bothering you or there's some goal you don't know how to get to. And I always ask for permission first. It's like, even though they probably assume I'm going to ask these questions, every time I'm like, hey, man, you cool if I just ask some financial questions? Everything's confidential, but I just got to know this so I could understand if I could help you. And with that angle about like asking, I think people really let their guard down because they feel comfortable and they know it's like, I'm trying to help them. And of course it's confidential. But the times where people really don't want to share, that's where I'll usually point them away and say like, hey, it might just not be a great fit. Respectfully, I can't do my best job if I don't know everything. So it might just not be a fit for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's like being a doc, you know, it's like if they can't literally tell you everything, you don't know what's wrong with them. And that's the biggest thing is that transparency. That's in any business though. Well, dude, you're talking, you're using words that are very, very Grant Cardone-ish. Did you have any sales training? Did you have any formal sales training or just YouTube videos and doing stuff like that? Or kind of how do you train to get better at your job?
I watch a lot of, like, I'll say this, I replaced TV with YouTube when I was in college, definitely. So like I watch a lot of Grant Cardone. I watch a lot of Alex Hormozy stuff. I watch a lot of Lewis Howes. His stuff is awesome. Patrick Bet-David, love him. Like just like a lot of these big finance guys or even like sales guys, because I say in finance, thinking of Patrick Bet-David, he came from that industry. I am in some coaching groups. Like, are you familiar with Arete Syndicate? Have you ever heard of that before with Andy Frisella? Andy Frisella at my
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So they have their group. It's called Arete Syndicate, and it's a big group, like over 2,000 people, but they do 3 calls a month, and it's just totally just business lessons. And they talk about how they've succeeded in their business, and they actually will bring up stuff from their recent weeks and lessons that they see. So that's one way. I've done multiple coaching engagements. And then beyond that, I have a lot of mentors within my company now that's really nice. That I almost considered like coaches, but obviously I'm not paying them. They're mentors in my company. But in terms of sales, like I probably have learned the most of like I think of it as communicating and like improving my communication. My mentor, the guy I spoke of before, the second call I ever made about finding my career, he's probably taught me more than anybody, like just how to communicate to people, how to ask questions, the way to ask them. And I think that's the best way to learn, and then going and doing it and sucking at it and realizing like, oh, this is the way to do it. But do a lot of reading too. I mean, I could go on for days. I love it, but.
Well, personal development, man, I believe that's one of the best investments you can make, especially in your early 20s, throughout your 30s. But like, never stop learning. And I don't know if it's that sports background in us that we like that from like the old school motivational highlight clips of athletes or whatever. But like, I just love YouTube. I've always loved YouTube. It came around when I was in high school. So like, I loved it. You know, I've always watched it. And I was going to YouTube for stuff before there was like help videos on YouTube. Like, so when I was in high school, played baseball as well. And I was going through a bit of a slump, and I was like, man, I just want to get, I don't know, produce more power, more swing velocity, whatever. So I went to YouTube and found like hitting instructions, breaking down Ken Griffey's swing, breaking down Barry Bonds' swing, breaking down A-Rod's swing. And it wasn't a good video compared to today's standards, but it was for back then. And that helped me get out of slumps. Like, so then whenever I'd have a question about something, I would just type it into YouTube, and I kept that habit all the way through college and to now. And I say I'm a YouTube university guy. Like I went to college and got a degree, but it doesn't even matter because I learned everything on YouTube and through my own failures. But you're 100% right. You got to just do it eventually. Because if you just watch a bunch of videos and never do it, you're never going to accomplish anything. So I know personal development's huge for you. How much time do you spend doing that? I mean, obviously, probably a lot. Probably more than most people.
Yeah. I would say like it's tough to put an exact time on it, but I would say this, like I said, I replaced TV with YouTube. And when I say YouTube, it is truly like personal development mainly. And that's got to be an hour or 2 hours every night. Just right. I'm going to bed. I throw that on like that. That's what I just have going as I'm going to bed. And it's funny. Like I go back to when I was really struggling. And as I mentioned, my first few months in business, I was like basically on my way out. And I started reading the book Think and Grow Rich, and a lot of the principles in there, he talks about like auto-suggestion and like what you feed your mind, that just becomes your life, quite frankly. So I'm like, I'm just going to put these podcasts on and like while I'm sleeping, just let this play, and I'm going to listen to it all night, and this is just going to be my life. And then it was like, it sounds stupid, but I really think there's something there. Like the more you're just, it's there, so to speak. But I'd probably say at least 2 hours a day, just on average, so give or take. But
yeah, no, I do the same thing, man. Whenever I'm in the car, I'm listening to an audiobook or a quick YouTube clip or something like that. Because I mean, my transit to get to work is about 15 minutes. So I mean, there's 30 minutes right there that I can be learning. My fiance, she gets on to me every time she gets in the car. It's like super loud and it's never music. And she's like, well, can you just listen to music or like whatever? I'm like, yeah, I guess, I will. Because not everybody's wired that way, man. Not everybody wants to do that, but the ones that have a lot of passion, ambition, guys similar to ourselves, I believe, it's what we want to do. And people say, if you watch these videos all the time, but what are you learning? You hear the same stuff said repetitive. I'm like, yeah, but you hear it in a different way. And sometimes that one way you hear it is going to change your whole perspective on everything. And you start applying, like, it's like it clicks. Oh, I got to do this finally. Totally. Like it unlocks something. Do you have the same experience?
Totally, man. Like it's almost like you got to hear something 5 times to finally understand what someone means by that. So many times in my life that I could talk about that. And I think auto-suggestion is that principle. And like, also like, like manifesting things. So like understanding, hey, I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to do it. This is when I'm going to do it. And this is what it's going to be. I look back to football, and you're going to smile when I say this. I know you are. Every coach you probably ever had is like, visualize yourself making big plays. Like visualize yourself making big plays. The day before the games, I remember they'd always tell us that. And I never bought into it. I was always like, yeah, all right, coach, like cool. And I never did it. But I started doing it in my career, and it's just funny how the exact things I write down or I visualize or I look at and focus on, I see it coming into my life every day. And
it's funny you say that, dude. So what's one thing we do in football that I absolutely hate? Walkthroughs. You get walkthroughs. You literally walk through the plays, especially before games. You're walking through formations and everything. Where are you going to be? Visualize yourself making the play. It's like, yeah. Then you get out there in the middle of the game, playing weak side linebacker, and then the motion happens. You know exactly what's about to happen, and you're there to make the play. And you're like, man, I literally thought this was how it was going to be, and it was. Like I can remember. So we'll tell a football story. So my coach, Coach Huseman, he was getting on to me real hard. It's my senior year. And this is when I had a good understanding of the defense, because I'm sure like it takes a minute once you get to college. Oh, yeah. I had a great understanding of the defense at this point, especially my position. And it was playing Western Carolina. And I saw in film, I was like, okay, if they're going to throw this one route, I need to drop to this one spot to bait them. And then I'm fast enough to go over here and make this play, and I'll be able to get a pick. And so at practice, I was practicing that. So I wasn't dropping where he wanted me to drop, normally where we would for our defense. Yep. And he kept yelling at me during practice. And finally, like, I've always been the type to be like, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. But finally I was like, Coach, I'm seeing this on film. If I drop 3 yards to the right of this play, the quarterback, I'm going to bait this quarterback. He's not that good. And as soon as he turns his shoulders and make the throw, I'm going to break because I'm not thinking about anything else. And I'm going to make the pick. And he was like, there's no way you're going to make the pick. If you make the pick, I'll just go ahead and give you the ball. There's no way that's going to happen. Dude, it was like first half, one of the first plays, they get to that formation, finally line up. I'm like, oh, they're going to run this play. I dropped to the spot that I was going to. I baited the quarterback. He faked it this way, turned his shoulders. I broke before he even threw it, made the pick, ran the ball over to my coach. I handed it to him. I said, you want to hand this to me after the game or right now? And he's like, get out of my face.
That's awesome, man.
But the ball I have in my office that's in the majority of my podcast, like in the office at work, that's the ball that he gave me. So it's one of those things that's like, man, sometimes when you think you're right, you're right. And I literally visualized, like dreamed of making that pick, and it happened exactly like I thought it was going to be. So it's funny that you're doing that in business as well. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love that story for so many reasons. But yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. Well, dude, what else do you do? Like, so in your spare time, obviously we talk a lot about work and finances and training and all that stuff. But like, what else do you do, man? There's got to be some other things you enjoy.
Yeah, I'm a meathead. Like, I love lifting. I love it. Powerlifting, bodybuilding, whatever it is. Like, I go through cycles of that, like different type of working out. Like 1 month I want to powerlift, 1 month I want to bodybuild. I even got into CrossFit for a little bit. So like, I get into seasons with my lifting, but that's probably my biggest thing. And obviously it comes from football. I know you're into it too. But that's the biggest thing for me. And I just think the benefits of it they pour out way more than just physical. Like the mental, it just puts me in equilibrium, So weightlifting's huge. I love sports, huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Follow the NBA. I'm a Celtics fan. I'm a Red Sox fan in baseball. Those are the big ones. Obviously, hanging with my boys, stuff like that. But I like traveling. Me and my fiance went all over this year. That was great. That's a little bit about me outside of business.
Well, that's good, man. It's good to have the work-life balance, and you can incorporate as much as yourself into your actual work, which is I think what we're doing. Yeah. That's probably why we, it's like people are like, how do you turn the work and personal life on switch? It's like, I'm the exact same person, whether I'm at work, whether I'm on LinkedIn, or whether I'm at home. Like, I'm literally the same person. And even like, you might want to see this bad boy. So even when you're the champ, sometimes you just gotta like be the same person when you're the champ as well. But yeah, man, I'm glad you came on. Something I like to ask everybody before we get them off here is, what is one piece of advice that you would give yourself? Now, you're young, you're 24, you're ahead of the curve, but like, what's one piece of advice you'd give yourself day one walking into your job that would set you up for an easier transition to find success a little quicker?
Yeah, it'd be the same advice I give to anybody going into any job. And I say this because, like, growing up, I come from a small town in PA, right? And everybody sort of settles. Not to say that there's anything wrong with my town. I'm still in it, and I love it, and I love the people from it, and I'm so grateful. But the thinking tends to be a little smaller. So, like, what I'm trying to say is, you might have big dreams, and as soon as you start going towards those, people are going to try to pull you away, pull you back to normal, because that scares them, because they didn't go after theirs, and they don't want you to think bigger than they are, and they don't want you to do more just out of selfish reasons. And I proved to myself my first year in business that I could do really big things. And quite frankly, Gunnar, I made more money my first year in business than I thought I'd ever make in my career. And it just shifted my mindset to say, like, if I could do this, what else could I do? And so my advice to anybody starting something is, like, don't listen to any of the BS around you. Don't let people tell you what you can and can't do. Do what you want to do because you want to do it. And keep that at the front of your mind. Don't change for somebody else. So that'd be my piece of advice.
No, dude, I love that. You got such a good head on your shoulders, man. I was an idiot when I was 24. I was an idiot just like 5 years ago. So, like, it's amazing. I'm still an idiot sometimes. Some people would say that. But, like, no, seriously, man. Like, when I was 24, I was all gung ho into wrestling and logistics. I thought logistics was plan B and wrestling was plan A. And then here we are. Like, I wouldn't trade logistics for wrestling for anything. Like, it wouldn't even make sense. But it's good, man. Good to see that you got your head on your shoulders and that you're doing good things. And I'm proud of you, man. I'm cheering for you. I'm happy you came on the show. You can have this platform whenever you want it. I know it's a little bit different to get you on than other people, but we'll get you on when we can. And would love to meet up with you whenever I can get up to PA or you get down here this way. Hit me up, man, and let's do something. Where can people find you outside of LinkedIn?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. It's actually my full name there, Armando Sallavanti III. You can find me there. No website yet. I'm working on it, actually. That should be launching hopefully in January. I was shooting for the first week, but it's not looking like it's going to be done. But Facebook, LinkedIn, my website, when it launches, that's pretty much best places. So.
All right, man. Well, hey, dude, thank you so much for coming on. If you need anything else from me, just hit me up, and I got you. All right, bro.